In the shadows of the Ottoman throne, where sultans commanded armies and viziers plotted their rise, there was one figure no one dared to underestimate, a woman. Not a queen crowned by tradition, but a princess who bent politics, love, and loyalty to her will. She was the only daughter of Suleiman the Magnificent, born into power yet caged by duty. Her name, Mihrimah Sultan, to the world, a jewel of the empire. To those who crossed her, a storm that could break men and kingdoms alike. This is not the tale of a silent princess. This is the untold story of the woman called the Sun and the Moon, the secret hand behind an empire's greatest age. The year was 1522. In the heart of Istanbul, the world's most dazzling city, a cry echoed to the walls of Topkapi Palace. A child had been born, not just any child, but the only daughter of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent and his beloved consort, Mihrimah Sultan. Her name was Mihrimah, Sun and Moon, a name that carried destiny in its syllables. She entered a world of silk curtains and golden domes, where jewels sparkled brighter than the stars. But behind those walls, the air was thick with whispers, envy, and betrayal. The palace was no fairy tale. It was a golden cage where a wrong glance or a careless word could end a life. And though she was a princess, the most cherished child of the most powerful man alive, Mihrimah's future was not hers to choose. In the empire of the Ottomans, even daughters of sultans were pawns on a board of power. Yet from her mother, Mihrimah Sultan, she inherited something rare: the will to fight, the courage to rise, and the knowledge that women, too, could shape the fate of an empire. From the very beginning, Mihrimah was not destined to be silent. As Mihrimah grew, so too did her worth. She was no longer just a daughter of the Sultan. She was a prize, a key to alliances, a symbol of power coveted by the empire's most ambitious men. Even the legendary Admiral Barbarossa, master of the seas, sought her hand. To possess Mihrimah was to gain favor with the most powerful dynasty in the world. But the Sultan chose differently. At just 17, Mihrimah was married to Rustam Pasha, the Grand Vizier of the empire. To the outside world, it was a marriage of brilliance, uniting the Sultan's daughter with his most trusted official. But inside the palace, whispers grew darker. Rustam was feared for his cunning, despised for his greed, and suspected of corruption. Was Mihrimah a pawn in her father's grand game of politics? Or was she already beginning to play her own? For while others saw her as a bride bound by duty, Mihrimah understood something few Ottoman princesses dared to grasp. Marriage was not a chain. It was a weapon. Through Rustam, she gained access to the very heart of imperial power. And in the shadows of the palace, the young princess began to shape her destiny. When Mihrimah Sultan, the most powerful woman in the Ottoman court, passed away, a silence fell over the empire. But in that silence, another voice rose, the voice of her daughter, Mihrimah. No longer shielded by her mother, Mihrimah stepped into the arena of power. While other princesses lived and died in obscurity, she became her father Suleiman's most trusted advisor. To the soldiers, Suleiman was a lawgiver, but in his moments of doubt, it was Mihrimah who steadied his hand. Their bond was unlike any other in the dynasty. From the palace in Istanbul, she wrote letters to him on distant campaigns. Letters filled not only with the tenderness of a daughter, but the wisdom of a stateswoman. She spoke of politics, alliances, and the dangers that lurked in the court. And the Sultan listened. Mihrimah was not a shadow at the edge of power. She was a whisper in the Sultan's ear, the unseen mind behind decisions that shaped an empire stretching across 3 continents. She was the only Ottoman princess granted such access to the affairs of state, a place at the table where no woman was supposed to sit. And with every word she spoke, every letter she sent, she proved that she was more than her mother's heir. She was a strategist in her own right. But Mihrimah's story is not only written in politics and power. It is also whispered in the language of love and legend. In the heart of the empire lived Mihrimah Sultan, the greatest architect the Ottomans ever knew, a man whose hands carved domes that touched the heavens, and whose vision gave Istanbul its soul. And yet, behind his genius, there was said to be a secret, an unspoken love for Mihrimah Sultan. He could never have her. She was a princess bound by duty, he a servant of the state. But where words were forbidden, stone and light became his confession. They say he built 2 mosques in her honor, one in Uskadar, where the sun sets over the Bosphorus, and another in enigmatic, where the moon rises over the city. On her birthday, if you stand in the right place, the sun dips behind one mosque as the moon rises over the other. Her name, Mihrimah, sun and moon, written not on parchment, but across the sky itself. Whether truth or legend, the tale remains the same. Mihrimah inspired devotion so powerful, it carved itself into the very skyline of Istanbul, a woman trapped by politics, yet forever free in the language of love. But power in the Ottoman court was never without shadows, and Mihrimah knew this better than anyone. Her husband, Rustam Pasha, Grand Vizier of the Empire, had risen to the highest seat of power, yet his name carried a stench that echoed through the palace halls. Greed, corruption, manipulation. Rustam was feared as much as he was hated. His enemies whispered bribes, secret plots, and betrayals. And with every accusation, Mihrimah's name, too, was drawn into the storm. Then came her brother, Selim too. Unlike their father Suleiman, Selim lacked the strength of a ruler. Known for his indulgence and weakness, he leaned heavily on Mihrimah's wisdom. Once again, she found herself carrying the weight of an empire, this time not as a daughter, but as the guiding hand of faltering sultan. But the palace was a nest of serpents. Every alliance was fragile, every friendship laced with poison. Mihrimah was trapped between loyalty to her blood and the survival of her name. To protect her family meant shielding a husband despised by the court and a brother unfit for the crown. One misstep, one betrayal, one whispered lie in the wrong ear, and even the sultan's daughter could be destroyed. Mihrimah walked the razor's edge, her every choice a gamble between power and ruin. In 1578, the empire mourned. Mihrimah Sultan, the daughter of Suleiman the Magnificent, had drawn her final breath. She was laid to rest near her family, not just as a princess of the dynasty, but as a woman who had stood at the very heart of its power. Her life had been one of contrasts, born into privilege, yet trapped in a cage of duty, bound by politics, yet remembered for wisdom, feared in whispers, yet honored in stone. The mosques that rise in Istanbul still speak her name. The sun sets over Uskadar, the moon lifts above enigmatic, and between them, Mihrimah's story continues, etched not in books alone, but in the very skyline of the city she once walked. Her name means sun and moon, and like the heavens themselves, Mihrimah carried both light and shadow in her destiny. A daughter, a sister, a wife, but above all, a stateswoman who proved that even in an empire ruled by men, the voice of a woman could echo across centuries. She was the daughter of Suleiman, the shadow of her mother Hurrem, the wife of a vizier, and the inspiration of an architect. But above all, Mihrimah Sultan was power itself. And her story is only one thread in the vast tapestry of Ottoman women who shaped empires from behind the veil. Next we turn to another, a woman whose rise from the harem shook the throne itself, Kozum Sultan, the queen who ruled an empire in her own name. Subscribe, like, and join us as we uncover the hidden queens of history, the women whose whispers moved empires.